Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a really fascinating and honestly incredibly bold prediction about South Korea's ultimate destiny on the global stage. We're looking at a source text centered on the philosophy of Jungbub. Now, this text weaves together geopolitics, cultural evolution, and esoteric spirituality into one giant overarching narrative. And that narrative? That South Korea isn't just a developing nation, but is actually destined to become the undisputed center of the entire world.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've got a really clear journey mapped out today, moving from observable tech trends all the way into some deep spiritual philosophy. We'll hit 5 main points. First, the global AI hub. Second, the secret of Korean safety. Third, the heavenly descendants theory. Fourth, preparing the chosen land. And finally, number 5, the 2049 global timeline. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the global AI hub. So, the source material actually anchors these massive predictions right in our modern technological landscape. It argues that South Korea is rapidly becoming the central node for global governance and artificial intelligence. And, to back this up, the speaker points to some very concrete real-world developments happening right now. We're talking about Google setting up its very first overseas AI campus right in Korea, alongside major international hubs for the World Bank and UNICEF. But, and this is key, the speaker insists this isn't just your standard economic growth. They see it as the very beginning of a massive migration of global leadership.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale of the predictions. The source text makes this incredibly bold claim that eventually the United Nations headquarters and its entire General Assembly will completely relocate from the US to South Korea. The argument here is that as Korea builds this new value system for an AI-driven civilization, it's just naturally going to become the physical host for the world's most critical institutions. Pretty huge, right?
So you might be wondering, if this is their destiny, why hasn't it fully happened yet? Well, the speaker attributes this delay strictly to geopolitics. Right now, the biggest obstacle is the division between North and South Korea, which obviously creates some underlying anxiety for global entities. But the predicted future state? A peacefully unified peninsula. The source claims that once they achieve this peaceful unification, it's going to unlock the safest land on Earth for top global talent, causing an unprecedented influx of the world's absolute highest caliber individuals.
Which brings us right to Section 2, the secret of Korean safety. To explain why all this top talent is supposedly going to flock to Korea, the speaker shifts gears into everyday cultural observations, and this brilliantly illustrates their point. Just think about this stark contrast. In a lot of advanced nations, if you leave a laptop on a cafe table, it's probably gone in 3 minutes flat. But in Korea, you could accidentally leave a high-end smartphone, even one with cash literally tucked right into the case, in a public restroom, and you can come back 30 minutes later to find it perfectly safe and untouched. To the rest of the international community, this level of trust honestly sounds like science fiction.
And the text builds on this with a reality that just absolutely stuns foreign tourists. Women can safely jog in public parks at 2 or 3 in the morning with their headphones in, or just grab some late-night chimek, chicken and beer, without a second thought. If you're coming from a place where nighttime automatically means heightened alertness, experiencing this peaceful reality is, well, an absolute revelation. Now, this phenomenal level of safety creates what the source describes as a dream country. The text specifically points out that the children of visiting foreign diplomats and global leaders get to experience this extreme safety and convenience firsthand, and they realize it's just unmatched anywhere else in the world. And here's the crucial part. The speaker argues that these kids report this dream country reality back to their powerful parents. Over time, that quietly but very significantly influences global political views in favor of South Korea. Moving right along to Section 3, the heavenly descendants theory.
So I want you to just think about this question for a second. Why exactly is top global talent naturally drawn to Korea? I mean, is it really just the lightning-fast internet and the extremely safe parks? Well, according to the source material, the answer goes much, much deeper than physical infrastructure. In fact, the speaker offers a highly unconventional, DNA-based explanation for this magnetic pull. And here is where the claims get truly astonishing. The speaker asserts that up to 97% of the world's top experts and leaders actually share Korean DNA. Let that sink in for a moment. The text predicts that future highly advanced genetic testing is going to reveal that these elite minds, scattered all across the globe, are deeply genetically connected to the Korean people. This brings us to the core concept of Chun-son,
or heavenly descendants. The speaker claims we aren't just talking about biology here, it's a spiritual bloodline. Remember that moral code that stops people from swiping laptops in cafes? The text argues it's deeply ingrained in their bones by their ancestors. The source even goes as far as boldly asserting that other historical global groups, like the Jewish people, will eventually acknowledge Koreans as the true heavenly descendants. And it's this spiritual lineage, they say, that is the real magnet pulling all this talent back to their ancestral home on the peninsula.
Okay, let's jump into Section 4, Preparing the Chosen Land.
Because the speaker firmly believes this massive influx of the global elite is basically a guarantee, the source offers some very direct advice to the public on how they need to prepare. There's a sharp contrast drawn here between current attitudes and the necessary ones. Right now, the text observes a public that tends to complain a lot and pushes for short-sighted development, stuff like forcing messy factories into rural areas just to make a quick buck. But the advised attitude? Stop complaining immediately. They argue that negativity literally lowers the nation's energy. Instead, the focus needs to be entirely on keeping the environment pristine to welcome this massive incoming global investment.
So the crucial point here is that Korea's role is absolutely not to be the world's factory floor. The speaker views pushing for cheap rural industrialization as pretty small-minded. Instead, they argue that massive global capital is already waiting in the wings to enter the country. So Korea's only real job? Maintain a beautiful, pristine environment so they can graciously host that incoming global elite. And that leads us to our final section, Section 5, the 2049 Global Timeline. The speaker doesn't just leave us with open-ended predictions. They actually map out an exact timeline for when all of this is going to culminate. The text outlines a highly specific 36-year prophetic cycle that officially kicked off back in 2013. Now, we're obviously still navigating the early stages of this, but the text points to the year 2030 as the real turning point. That's when major global shifts, realignments, and highly visible changes in the world order will truly start happening. Finally, this whole 36-year cycle is predicted to complete around the year 2049, at which point the claim is that Korea will be firmly established at the absolute center of human civilization. Let's move on and see how this builds into their final geopolitical strategy, because it's pretty nuanced. By the end of this cycle, the speaker claims Korea will easily rank in the top 3 nations globally, and they'll actually hold the true #1 spot in terms of real capability. But, and here's the clever part, because overt supremacy tends to attract jealousy and conflict, Korea will deliberately act as #2 on the world stage. This strategic positioning is supposedly designed to let the nation guide humanity peacefully without sparking any international friction. To leave you with a final thought today, how do modern technology, unique cultural safety, and deep beliefs about DNA-level destiny intersect to shape how a nation views its very own future? The philosophy we've explored today blends cutting-edge AI with ancient concepts of a chosen people, creating a truly one-of-a-kind geopolitical worldview. Thanks so much for joining me as we unpack these really intriguing concepts in today's Explainer, and definitely keep questioning how the narratives of the past might just be shaping the visions of tomorrow.